Hello teachers! The following video was put together by Jennifer Gunn from the Region 10 ELAR team. It is about the short constructed response questions students will encounter on the state STAR and EOC exams. Use the information she provides in conjunction with the training materials we've provided and the rubrics from the state to deepen your understanding of the short constructed responses. If you watch this video and the extended constructed response video and then answer the open-ended question that follows each of the videos, you can receive credit for this as a 2-hour PD. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you.
Welcome to RLA Short Constructed Responses, Strategy and Scoring for STAR and EOC. In this brief video, we are going to look at an overview of constructed responses and then examine closely the rubric for reading short constructed responses and following that some reading instructional targets. And then we'll switch gears to the writing rubric and some instructional targets for the writing short constructed responses. And we'll leave you with some resources before we're all said and done. If you'd like to follow along with the published slide deck, you can access it with bit.ly/SCR scoring. It is case sensitive, so make sure you type using a capital SCR. All right, let's begin with an overview. So all grades 3 through the English 1 and 2 EOCs will have an extended constructed response. That extended constructed response will have a 2,300 character limit, and it will be worth 5 points scored by 2 different raters for a total of 10. Our focus here in this video are going to be the short constructed responses. So we're looking at a reading short constructed response worth 2 points and a writing short constructed response worth 1 point. And each of those would have a 475 character limit. The reading short constructed response will require a student to provide answer and supporting evidence, and these are going to assess their understanding of content and reading skills. So language and conventions are not going to factor into the scoring on the reading short constructed response. The writing short constructed response is going to be affected by language and conventions, as the task is that a student will provide a complete sentence that corrects either a revising or editing error. Now, we're going to look at samples to each of these and dive very much into rubrics with student responses as well. I do want to mention before we do all of that deep dive that your assessed curriculum and blueprints for your grade level will provide additional information on the TEKS that are going to be targeted and how many total 2-point questions and 1-point questions your students will see. These short constructed responses may be among the 2-point or 1-point questions. For additional information beyond this slide deck, you can access the full scoring guides released by TEA. We have linked them here on slide 9 for you for easy access. All right, so let's look at the reading short constructed response and accompanying rubric. So in the sample we're going to look at, we will be seeing students who had responded to an English 1 passage titled Tending Roses. We're going to look just at a piece of this. So we know in advance of reading that while visiting her grandmother's farm with her husband and young son, Katie finds her grandmother's journal next to a jar of fireflies. You'll see early on in the passage, we're spotlighting paragraph 2, that it describes Katie in the glow from the yard light outside, right? Reading, I sat down to read the spidery writing. The spidery writing was that of her grandmother's in the journal she has found. Jumping to paragraph 8, we actually see the grandmother's thoughts. Notice that it's in italics to indicate a change in that narration. So in paragraph 8, from the grandmother's journal, I smiled as I gazed at the moon. There, in the soft shades of blue and rose, was the celestial face I once knew from my storybooks. I thought of how many times as a girl I stared into that faraway moon and dreamed impossible dreams, wishing for the same treasures I heard my children ask for when I passed their doors at night. I thought of that part of me that once created bigger worlds, and I mourned. Jumping to the end of the passage, spotlighting paragraph 11, we're back with Katie. I laid the book on the table and carried the jar outside. In the darkness of the yard, I lifted the lid and promised myself I would remember to look for the fireflies tomorrow night. The prompt students saw for a reading short constructed response on that passage was this. What does the author's language in paragraph 8 of the excerpt suggest about grandma? Support your answer with evidence from the excerpt. So when we look at the rubric, they are going to be item specific, and that we see to get 2 points out of a possible 2 points, that a complete response may include, but would not be limited to one of these responses about what the author's language in paragraph 8 did suggest about grandma. You will see that one option is that it tells us grandma regrets that she let her childhood dreams fade away, or perhaps a student might go more in the direction that she's remembering what she was like as a child and wishes she were still able to dream. Below that, the second requirement is supporting evidence. You will see that the rubric indicates that evidence may be cited, and really what they mean there is that it can be directly quoted or paraphrased. And we have 3 bullet points describing possible evidence that a student may use. Again, these are not exclusively what the student is limited to. As the rubric says, the response may include, but is not limited to the bulleted samples that they're providing. So a 2 would look something like this, perhaps. This student wrote, the author's language in paragraph 8 suggests that she misses the days when she was a child. So there is their accurate answer. Being a child brought her so much joy when she would laugh so freely and think of bigger dreams. Quote, I thought of the part of me that once created bigger worlds and I mourned. End quote. The student continues that thought by saying that quote is evidence that misses the days she was young and full of life. Please note that they do have a clear answer. They do have relevant evidence. They have successfully met the criteria for a 2. Because these short constructed response on reading assess reading skills, this student's errors in conventions did not affect their score. When we look at the rubric for a 1 or a 0, we see that a 1 is a partial response. So the student might have provided an answer, but does not provide evidence, or the evidence provided doesn't support the answer. Or the student might cite, quote, or paraphrase the relevant text evidence, but doesn't include an answer. So this often looks like just the text evidence being presented as their answer without having those distinct two pieces, answer and evidence. A 0 is just going to be incorrect. It isn't going to be based on the text, perhaps. They might not have even answered the response. So a 1 might look like this. This student wrote, "It shows that grandma was very emotional about what she wanted to do in life." So they have an answer. Their evidence is not really sufficiently connected to the text or accurate to that. And it reads, "Her mind had to be at peace when thinking about dreams she wanted." Whereas a 0 is off track, they've misread the prompt and or the passage. This student wrote, "The girl was getting memory back for her grandma and wanted to read her diary because she missed the thought of her." Now, when we are looking at the reading short constructed responses and the expected outcome on that 2-point rubric, we recognize that it is very tempting to teach to that end product and to maybe even rely on a formula that the students need to write in. However, we really want to stress that we need to teach the thinking behind these skills that a formula simply will not do. And so we're going to dive into just those 2 expectations from the rubric: answering the question, the prompt, and providing evidence. So you'll notice on slide 20, we do have the assessed curriculum linked so that you can explore your own grade level expectations. But for every grade level, the instructional target is that a student can comprehend the reading passage as well as comprehend what the prompt is asking them for. So we want the student to be able, with that comprehension, to concisely and accurately respond. So when we are looking at just teaching that skill, we are working on comprehension skills, strand 2 of our TEKS. We're working on response skills, strand 3 of our TEKS. We're probably doing that within a variety of genres and looking at some purpose and craft with each of those genres. So if a student is struggling to meet that instructional target, then a teacher can model good comprehension strategies through Think Alouds, or they can provide guided questions or thinking stems to scaffold the student into better comprehension. But if a student is on the instructional target, we can always enrich that learning by asking them to add reasoning to their answer, perhaps a simple because extension to that, or to get them to see maybe complexities in the passage that they have overlooked. Similarly, there is a wide range of instructional opportunity with our second instructional target, providing evidence. So we need students to select relevant text evidence and then to be able to connect their evidence, selected evidence, to the answer. So again, if a student is struggling, we may have to provide narrowed options for selecting that text evidence. It might be that you can create card sorts. I love to do this in my own classes, and it's very simple. I'm going to type up various excerpts, sentences from the text we're reading, cut them out onto strips, and then as I provide them different prompts, they're going to sort through those collections of quotes from the text and be able to defend why that is the best evidence for any given prompt that I have stated. If a student is already selecting really good relevant text evidence, then we might work with that student and model more sophisticated methods of including the text evidence, such as embedding the quote, short quotes, into their own sentence structures or paraphrasing. Now, we really encourage you to use a short constructed reading prompt within the curriculum you're already teaching. It doesn't need to be a stop for test prep circumstance. And you can look on slide 22 And there is linked a collection of all the released SER prompts for every grade level. And you could turn any of them into a template and then customize it for the text that you are reading in class. All right, now, as we're shifting gears from the reading short constructed response to the writing, I do want to point out that even though there may not be a large number of these constructed short items on the RLA and EOC test, that if you are preparing students with these and focusing your instruction around these open-ended constructed responses, you really are preparing them for every item they might see on the STAR exam. Because if they can do the open-ended process, they're going to be fine when they get to multiple choice or other new item types. All right, so the writing short constructed response is going to be in the revising and editing section of the test. So looking at this grade 7 sample, we see the original paragraph with the sentence in question highlighted. It reads, "Every July, my family packs suitcases to prepare for 2 weeks away from home. I always dream that I'm packing for a European vacation or mountainous adventure, but in reality, we are packing to spend 2 weeks at my grandparents' house. Lolly and Pops live on a few acres in the hill country. It's not Europe or the mountains, but it's a lot more fun than staying at home all summer, which is not fun." The prompt, sentence 4, needs to be revised. In the box provided, rewrite sentence 4 in a clear and effective way. Now, again, these are 1-point items. So the student either provides a complete sentence that does express the ideas in a clear and effective way, or if they are not going to earn that 1 point, they will have not provided a complete sentence, or they will not have expressed the ideas in a clear and effective way. So you see the student sample here that did score a 1, and they rewrote the original sentence, eliminating that repetition of fun. Their sentence reads, "It's not European vacation or the mountains, but it is more fun than staying at home all summer." You'll notice that the student did write a complete sentence, and that sentence does express the original ideas clearly and effectively. Notice that there are some minor typing missteps, like they do not have a space after their comma before the conjunction but. Those minor missteps still did not affect the score because they met the criteria of the rubric. Whereas a 0, again, could have been an incomplete sentence, or the thought did not clearly express the ideas. So this student did not get the 1 point. This did earn a 0, as they wrote, "Europe and the mountains are not fun. I like staying home all summer." So they have changed the meaning from the original context, and they additionally do have a run on here. For the writing short constructed responses, we want you to know that just extensive reading and writing is the best grammar instruction. You can keep your explicit grammar instruction brief through mini lessons connected to a mentor text. And that mentor text can be as brief as 1 sentence, because sometimes 1 sentence is all it takes to demonstrate the skill that we're trying to get students to experience and understand. The real importance here is to have students immediately connect it to their own writing. When you are thinking about the mini lessons for explicit grammar instruction, think in terms of both revising and editing. Again, on slide 29, We have linked the assessed curriculum documents so that you can look at your grade level specifically. But we also want you to note that most of the released prompts for writing short constructed prompts have been in these 3 templates. These are the 3 patterns that we would encourage you to prioritize. So pattern number 1, sentence number blank, repeats information. Rewrite sentence number blank in a clear and effective way. So on this, they intentionally and explicitly state you're dealing with repetition. Then, like the model we just saw, sentence number blank needs to be revised. Rewrite sentence number blank in a clear and effective way. This is vague, and this is where your assessed curriculum documents will help you narrow down what kind of revision may need to be targeted. And then finally, we see templates where they need the student to combine ideas. So Claudia wants to combine ideas in sentence number blank and sentence number blank. Write a new sentence that combines these ideas in a clear and effective way. So really diving into compound and complex sentences and having students work and practice on combining those sentences and those ideas into those types of sentences in open-ended constructed responses. For editing, we do not have any current released prompts that show us a specific editing task, although it is a possibility. And so again, look at your assessed curriculum and continue to practice those editing skills like pronoun antecedent agreement, spelling in open-ended short response processes. So before we end, I do want to connect you to a couple of additional resources. First, on slide 32, if you haven't already, please make sure you utilize the resources on TEA's STAR redesign site, especially the online practice exams and those assessed curriculum, blueprints, and scoring guides for your grade levels. Additionally, you have been given the published access to our slide deck. We would also like to offer you the view-only access. We do understand that everyone is under a lot of demand as we try to roll toward the redesign. We just ask that you honor the intellectual property of Region 10, make sure that you refrain from content changes, and do give credit if you are using these sources inside here in other ways. And then finally, please feel free to reach out to anyone on our ELAR team. We would be more than happy to field your questions and requests and to provide you whatever support we may be able to do. Thank you so much.